Good morning. As I start this class, you might be watching it any time of year, but it is November. Not my favorite month, even though my birthday is this month, but it's kind of gray, dreary. The clocks just changed, so it's darker. And so I thought what we do, and you can do this practice any time of year. It doesn't have to be a cold, dreary month like November or a cold, dreary place like Ontario in November. Because the sun is always an inspiration. Whether we're lacking it or enjoying it, we can always look to the sun for some inspiration. So we're going to use the sun as our focus today. And our practice will be working towards a series of poses called sun salutation. There are many different versions of sun salutation, so if you know a different version and the one that I'm offering doesn't look like what you've done before, know that there are lots of ways to do this. So it's not like a right or wrong, but many different paths to the same place. So we'll be working on that. And sun salutation also is a little bit more vigorous. So it does get the blood pumping. So it brings a little warmth into our body at a cold time of year as well. And when the sun is further away from us, or when we're further away or turned away from the sun, as the case may be, and the days are shorter, it's not uncommon for people to feel dragged out a little bit, emotionally kind of blah. And so if we can connect with the sun, at least in our own minds and in our hearts, it can sometimes be helpful to move through some of those blah or unmotivated times. The sun is such a source. It is our source of power in our solar system. So it's a pretty important part of our lives. I think we mostly, often take the sun for granted because we can go inside and turn on a light or light a fire, little piece of the sun in my house here, light a fire to stay warm. So we don't rely on the sun the same way that people did for many years before the modern conveniences. So if we can also connect with a little bit of gratitude for the sun and for all that it gives us, that will also lift our hearts a little bit. So we'll start lying down. We'll do a little bit of centering. You can lie down on your mat. You can sit if you're more comfortable sitting or whatever works for you, but I will see you on the mat in a comfortable position. So as you get comfortable, again, you could be lying down, you could be sitting, whatever works for you. And as you get yourself comfy, start to connect and tune into your breathing. You don't have to do anything special with your breath. In fact, it's best if you just let it be. And tune into the fact that you are breathing. A couple weeks ago, we looked at the concepts of prana and apana associated with inhale and exhale. And the sun is more associated with the inhale and that uplifting, outward moving energy, whereas the moon would be more connected to that downward, inward moving energy. So winter is more of a moon phase in terms of energy tends to go down. And so we bring in the opposite to try to balance. We bring in a little more sun energy. So if it feels good to you, you might take slightly deeper breaths now and imagine that you could breathe in that energy of the sun, the warmth, the light, the clarity, whatever else you associate with the sun. In India, the sun is often referred to as mitra, which means friend. A friend that's always there, even when we can't see that friend. So even when we're further away from the sun, we know it's there. We feel its presence even when it's dark. We have the ability to do that. So take a few deeper breaths. Imagine you could breathe that light into your body. And you can imagine the sun sort of in the heart area, and maybe a little sun in there that expands as you inhale and sort of moves like your breath. And this could be the full noonday sun. It could be a gentle sunrise or a sunset. So whatever aspect of the sun feels right for you today. Breathing it in. Imagine that kind of movement and expansion around the heart. And then gradually let your breath return to normal. And now just taking relaxed, easy breaths. We'll continue to come back to this idea of expanding the sun around the heart, the visualization or image of the sun around the heart as we go through the practice today. We'll start with bringing the knees up into the chest when you're ready to add a bit of movement. You can draw your knees towards your chest, one hand to each knee. Gently draw the knees towards you, feeling like maybe some stretch in the back. And then move the knees away, straightening your arms. Apanasana. Exhale. Feel the breath being gently squeezed out. And then making room for breath as you move the knees away. Go at your own pace. Your breath might be slower or faster than mine. And as always, if coordinating movement and breath together creates any tension for you, just do the movement at a pace that feels comfortable and breathe normally. And then gradually let's take the feet to the floor and bring the hands down alongside the body on the ground. We'll take the arms straight up in the air, bringing the backs of the hands toward the floor behind you, breathing in if you're coordinating your breath here, and then exhale. Bring the arms down, press into the feet a little bit as the arms come down, press into the hands and feel this sense of bringing the lower back and belly toward the ground. And then as you inhale, let the back arch. Big opening around the heart, feel that sun expanding, and then exhale, press into the feet a little, bring the arms down, press into the hands, and then inhale and lift. Again, at your own pace, so my breath may not be the same rate as is comfortable for you, so find your own rhythm. And we'll start to alternate bringing the knees to the chest as the arms come down. So one knee comes in, you can give a little squeeze. If it's not comfortable holding over the knee, you can reach behind. And then arms up, foot down, breathing in. Exhaling, other knee comes in. Continue a couple more times. Continue until you end up with the right knee back into your chest. Good. And then taking the hands and threading the fingers together behind the thigh, bring the thigh as close to your chest as is comfortable for you. And you're going to keep the thigh close to the chest here as we slowly move the lower leg away from the upper leg. So trying to bring the sole of the foot more or less to point toward the ceiling. But for you, it might be a little less than that. Just depends on how tight you are. So we're just going to stretch the leg up toward the ceiling a little, keeping the thigh to the chest, and then bend the knee. Right? You can stay here with the leg a little more extended if you like. For those of you who have a little more flexibility and reach here, you might reach up towards your ankle or your foot, but you can certainly keep the hands in this position, or it could be here, or if it's accessible, you could hold the foot. And this knee could go a little bit to the right, so it depends. If the hip is willing to open a little more, you can bring the knee down, but we are just warming up, so we don't want to go to a maximum stretch. You're finding the position that's most comfortable for you, and that could even be with the knee bent still. And when you find that position that works for you, you can slowly extend the opposite leg. Again, just being really, really cautious to honor your body. So we're just warming up. We don't want to go too much. Maybe for you, the position that feels best is more like this or this with the knee to the chest. When you're ready, we'll bring the right foot to the floor and stretch that leg out. So both legs stretched out. You can reach the arms overhead, breathe in, take a couple of breaths here. And then you can gradually lower the arms and bend both knees again. And again, we'll take the arms overhead, breathing in. And then as you exhale, left knee comes into the chest. You can thread your fingers together, interlacing behind the thigh. And then try moving the leg a little straighter, keeping the thigh toward the chest as much as possible. So it's much easier if we let the thigh come away from the chest. But we're trying to keep that close connection and just move the lower leg. It might feel like a lot of work, and in which case you may not move the leg quite as far, and that's fine. And then holding the leg there. Again, it could be with the knee bent, it could be with the knee a little less bent. It could be reaching the hands for the calf or ankle or for the foot. And again, depending on the flexibility in your hip, as we warm up here, the knee might also come a little to the side, and then it's a little further down. But wherever you are is completely fine, and it's better to just be where you are, honestly, than to try to force yourself to be somewhere that's not appropriate. Again, you could slowly extend the other leg. That is going to increase the stretch. So if you get there and find that that's more stretch than you want, bending the upper leg a little more or bending the lower leg more will make things a little easier. Try to keep that straight leg active, toes pointing up, reaching out through the heel. And then again, we'll release left foot to the floor, extending both legs and both arms and reaching from fingertips to heels. A couple of breaths here. And then let's lower the arms and we'll bend both knees again. And again, we'll raise the arms overhead, breathing in. And as you exhale, right knee comes into the chest. This time we'll keep the knee bent and extend the left leg. And a little movement for the right hip. So it could be keeping both hands on the knee and moving in little circles or moving side to side. Or you might take the left hand away from the knee and do some bigger movement, or even bigger movement, sliding the hand away from the knee. As you go, you might add a little tiny twist, bringing the knee into the left hand and rolling a bit onto the left hip, and then over to the right, back to the left. Starting to find a little movement for the hip back as well as the legs. Great, and then let's come back to the center, and again, we'll place that right foot on the floor. You can reach both arms overhead. And as you exhale, bring your left knee into your chest. And again, you could extend the right leg. It's fine to keep it bent if that's a better position for you. Otherwise, stretch it out, keep it active, toes point up, thigh engaged. And then any movement that feels good for this left hip. You can circle or move side to side or any other shape that gets into where you feel a little tightness. And then maybe add a bit of twist, going one way, other way, side to side. Right hand takes the knee into a bit of a twist. Left hand takes the knee to open the inner thigh a bit. Right, and then coming back to center, we'll place that foot on the floor. We'll bend the right knee as well. You might find your hips have shifted a little bit, so you can pick them up and bring them back to center. And bring your arms down to your sides and line your heels up so they're underneath your knees more or less. If that is too much bend for your knees and it creates tension, taking the feet a little further away is fine. You want to try to avoid having your knees beyond your ankles, which can put a little bit of strain in your knees. So finding that nice neutral position, heels underneath the knees, arms down alongside your body. And we'll work with a pose called bridge pose, where we lift the hips up in the air. And as we do this dynamically, we'll also raise the arms towards the floor behind at the same time. So when you're ready, start by taking a breath in. Feel that sun expand around the heart. Exhale, press down into your feet. Feel your lower back and your belly move toward the ground. And then as you inhale, start to lift the hips. And at the same time, extend your arms behind you. And then as you exhale, slowly release the spine down, release the hands toward the ground. Again, lifting with a breath in. And releasing down as you breathe out, as you exhale. Maybe one more here. And this time as you come to the ground, pause there for a moment. And we're going to have the option of staying in the pose. Now, if your body, we're still warming up, so if your body says, yeah, moving felt good, staying would feel like a strain, then do the pose again just the way we did it. If you want to go to the next step and hold the pose, which is going to give a little more strength to the legs, a little more openness to the heart area, you can stay in the pose. So again, finding that position where the heels line up under the knees. You can keep the arms down at your sides this time as we lift up. I'm going to press into the feet and slowly lift the hips up. And you can stay just like this, or if you want a little bit more expansion across the heart and it would feel okay with your shoulders, you can kind of rock to one side and roll the shoulder under, externally rotating. The palm could turn up. Same on the other side, rolling the shoulder under, turning the palm up, and being in this more open position. And some of you, without strain, may be able to take your hands and bring your hands together and press down into the earth with your arms to help support the pose. If you've tried that and it feels like any kind of strain in your shoulders or your wrists or your elbows, just release, let the palms turn up, let the shoulders be relaxed, and you'll get a lot of the same benefits. Think about feet being flat on the floor, knees stay over the ankles. So there's a tendency to let the knees roll out and the inner edges of your feet lift. Now, if there's any tension in your knees at all, you may need to make a little adjustment to be more comfortable. And that might be a little turn out of the knees or feet. So finding the expression of this pose that is most comfortable. And by now you might feel like you're starting to work a bit. You'll feel your glutes engage, your thighs engage, the arms are working. So let's take one more breath, find a little more elevation. And then when you come down, you're going to wiggle your shoulders apart if you've brought them together, and then slowly bring your spine down. And we'll bring the knees into the chest and work with a pose called Urdhva Prasrita Padasana. Big name for a simple pose. Stretching the legs toward the ceiling, the arms behind you, or if it's more comfortable for your shoulders, to the sides, and then knees back to chest, giving a squeeze in, and then reaching out. You're reaching out as you breathe in, making space for the breath, squeezing the breath out as you bring the knees in. And again, when you're ready, slowly let your feet come to the floor. And take your arms out to the sides, a little bit lower than shoulder height. We'll work with a gentle twist now. So feet are side by side, knees pointing at the ceiling. You'll take a breath in. And as you exhale, let your knees go to one side. You can turn your head the opposite way if you like. And then as you inhale, you'll come back to center. And you'll exhale to go the opposite direction. Continue again at your own pace. And then gradually make your way back to the center. Let's repeat the movement that we started with, which is Apanasana, knees to chest, drawing the knees towards you and moving the knees away. Bringing the spine and the hips back into alignment after the twist. And then slowly release the feet to the floor. You can keep the knees bent if you like, or stretch the legs out, whatever works for you. You can bring one hand onto the rib cage, one onto the belly. Just take a moment to be with your breath again before we change positions in a moment. Maybe notice any effects that you are aware of from the bit of movement. We've worked a lot with the hips and legs, a little bit with the chest and shoulders. So notice what you observe, what you can feel in your body after doing a few minutes of focused movement. And then tune into your breath again. Take normal breaths, but notice the breath as it comes and goes. And maybe come back to that visualization of breathing in the light and the warmth and the qualities of the sun. And then let that go. We're going to come upright and transition onto all fours. So you can roll to your side to come upright, or if it's comfortable for you, you might just rock yourself upright. So we'll come to all fours. And you can start with any movement that feels good after lying down, getting the spine moving a bit more. You might appreciate a few circles for the hips. Or maybe a cat-cow kind of movement, rounding and arching the back. Or a side to side, So explore what would feel good for your spine. Maybe it's kind of a circle, or moving back, hips to heels, child's pose. So let your body explore a bit of movement here for a minute or two, finding what would feel good. And then coming back to all fours, want to get into a position. You want to be, if you're on a mat, you might not be, you might just be on your carpet or whatever, but if you're on a mat, you want to be, so your feet are toward the back of the mat, so you've got a little bit of space in front of you. And if you have your hands lined up more or less underneath your shoulders, and then you'll take your hands, and where your fingertips are now, you're going to place the heel of your hand. So basically a hand print forward. And that should put you in a good position so that as you bring your body forward, hips, knees, and shoulders in alignment, that your wrists are right underneath your shoulders. If that's not the case, then shift back and make a little adjustment till you feel comfortable there. From that kneeling plank position, we'll bend the elbows and roll down. So thighs, belly, chest, forehead coming down. I've got my microphone here, so I'm not putting my forehead right down, but you can. Then slide your hands forward. Let's take the weight off the wrists. We're going to be doing quite a bit with weight on the wrist today, so anytime you need a break for your wrists, you can just pause and do a few wrist circles. And when we come to Cobra, bringing the hands forward rather than keeping the elbows up will put less pressure on the wrists. So from here, take a breath in, press down as you exhale into the hips, into the thighs, squeeze the legs, feel strong in the lower body. And then inhale, lift. You're hardly using your arms, they're just there for support. Exhale, lower. Again, inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. Try not to crank your head back, so keep your head in the same line as your spine. You can lift slightly with the neck as you come up, but we're not cranking way back. And if you like, you can stay this time. If it feels better for you, keep moving. If you want to increase the effort here, take your arms off the mat. If you really want to increase the effort, take your arms overhead. And then we'll bring the hands back by the hips, by the rib cage. Press into the palms, come back to all fours. From all fours, you can bring the hands back under the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, and we'll lift the head and tail, breathing in. And then exhale, round your back, or you can add moving back to the heels if that's comfortable for your knees and ankles and anything else. So coming forward, breathing in. Exhale, rounding, and maybe moving back. And then from child's pose, if you're comfortable sitting on your heels, which is maybe sort of 50-50 with most of my students, so you can always sit down or be up off your heels like so. And just so we have a space where we can do some wrist circles here. So you can take the hands and circle the wrists. You can do that also with fists. Give the hands a little shake. And then stretch the fingers back of one hand. And the thumb gently. Other hand. and thumb. And a few more circles. And again, a little shake. So we're going to work with lunge pose, stretching the front of the hips and the back of the legs a little bit. And you might find it helpful to have a couple of props here. So blocks and a blanket are generally helpful. Not absolutely necessary for sure. But if you have them, you can bring your blanket underneath your knees, giving yourself a little bit more padding. And you can take your blocks and make them into their highest position. Another way of doing this, if you don't have blocks, is to take a couple kitchen chairs on either side of you, and you can bring your hands onto chairs, which would actually make things even easier. So if that's an option for you, you can do that. If you're watching this later, you can just pause the video and get what you need. So from this position, we'll take one leg forward. Let's do the left leg. If you've already taken the right forward, that's fine. Just reverse the instructions. And we're going to start out by keeping the back knee and hip lined up. So back hip over the back knee, and we'll move the front leg straighter. You can do this with hands on the blocks. Your leg might become straight in front, it might be bent in front, whatever is appropriate for you. You're moving it straighter. And then maybe lift up your toes. So for most people, there will be some feeling and experience of stretch in the back of the leg here. If you want less stretch, bend your knee a little bit more. If you want more stretch, think about lifting the chest and the tail a little bit more. And then we're going to move from this position into lunge. Now, as you bring your foot down and rock forward, your lunge is going to be a little wider than normal. Your foot's ahead of your knee most likely. And then we'll rock back, lifting the toes. So we don't want the back hip to go beyond the back knee, which strains the knee, which is why when we come forward, we're a little bit wider so that we can keep that good alignment as we come back. So shifting forward, if you want to coordinate your breath, inhale as you shift forward, find a little lift in the heart. Shift back as you exhale. And again, go at your own pace. And if you find coordinating breath and movement is either confusing or uncomfortable or straining, just move at a pace that's comfortable and breathe normally. Next time you come with the front leg straighter, we're going to stay for a few breaths. You can adjust where your hands are to make it as comfortable as possible. And then in this position, squeeze up through the left thigh, the front leg, and imagine you're pulling back with your heel towards the back of your mat. So it's like you're pulling back, if I exaggerate, pulling the leg back toward the hip. So you're not actually moving the leg, just having an engagement. And then from here, drag the front foot back a little bit so that the lunge that you come into won't be quite as extended, and you'll come down in lunge. So now the knee and ankle in the front line up. So pausing here. And again, to maintain the integrity of the pose and the strength, so that we're not just going to our full range of motion and hang out on the joints, which can be straining for the joints. Tendons and ligaments end up getting stretched. They don't like that, so we want to contain. So we're pulling back with the front heel and forward with the back knee. And you might notice if I let go of that engagement, I sink down a bit. In this way, I kind of pull up and engage all the muscles around the pelvis and the thighs and the hips. So from here, this is optional now. If you want a little bit more, you can tuck your toes under and lift up. If you've had enough lunge already, just move back to child's pose or come back to all fours. But if you want to join me in this next segment, you'll again draw the back hip a little forward, forward hip back, so you're feeling engaged through the core. And then again, this is optional. If you feel confident and comfortable, you could bring your hands up onto your front knee. And from there, if you feel ready for more, you can lift the arms overhead. To come out of this position, you have Two choices. The easier choice is to first bring your hands down and then lower your knee. More challenging choice is to keep the arms up and slowly lower the back knee and then bring the hands down. So shift the weight back, draw the left leg back, and move the blocks out of the way for a moment, and a little movement of all fours to child's pose or cat-cow as we did before we moved into the lunge. And as you're ready again, we'll come into working with the lunge on the other side. So it's helpful to have a little bit of lift here. Like I said, it could be blocks or chairs. You can do this with your hands on the ground for sure. Just you get a little bit more effectiveness when you're up a little higher. So whatever works. So we'll start by keeping the back knee underneath the back hip or hip over the knee, taking the front leg straighter. Again, mine is comfortable straight. For you, it might be more comfortable with a little bend. And then from here, bringing the foot flat, rocking forward into a lunge. You don't have to go as far as you can. In fact, it's better if you ease into it a little bit at a time. And then we can stay in that position with the front leg straighter. Again, you might shift your blocks so that they're in a comfortable position under your shoulders. And then as you bring the right leg straighter, think about pulling back a little bit with your heel, as if you're pulling your hip back or pulling the femur up into the hip, engaging along the leg. If you want more stretch, lift your tail, lift your chest a little. And then we'll drag that foot back a bit so that when you come into lunge, shifting the hips forward, the front knee is more or less over the front ankle. And then again, we'll engage by imagining you're pulling back with the front heel forward with the back knee. And you'll feel the muscles around your hips and pelvis and thighs engage. If you like, if you've still got lots of energy and you feel balanced here, you could tuck your back toes under and lift the back knee. This is optional. If you feel like you've had enough of lunge, you can always go to child's pose or stay in the moving back and forth that we did a moment ago. As you get to this position, think about right hip moving back, left hip moving forward, squaring the hips and engaging the muscles around the hips, thighs, core. Again, optional, lifting the hands to the front knee. And again, optional, bringing the arms overhead. Palms face each other, shoulders move down. Keep the core a little bit engaged so the lower back stays long. From here, you can bring the hands down first, or you can lower the knee first. And then from there, we'll shift back to all fours. Hands down, and you're doing whatever movement feels good here. Could be all fours to child's pose, cat-cow, staying on your hands and knees, rounding and arching. Or again, it could be a side to side or circular movement. Great. And then we're going to move to the next movement. For this one, we probably don't want to have the blanket if you've got a blanket under your knees. So this is probably the hardest move of the sun salutation. And if you know sun salutation, you'll know this move of stepping from a pose called downward dog to lunge pose, which we just did. And it uses some of the work that we've already done today. So if you remember when we were lying on our backs and we had one knee coming into the chest and I was just asking you to move the lower leg, this is helpful for where we're going next. Most people find this easier to do with blocks under the hands. I mean, everyone will find it easier to do because it makes your arms longer. Some of you will need the blocks to make this possible. For some of you, the blocks still won't make it possible, and that's okay too. It depends on a lot of factors, including the length of your limbs, how much extra weight you might be carrying in your body, how flexible your hips are, how strong your core is. So know that, that this is a challenging move. So downward dog, you're going to come to all fours. If you want to try with blocks, have blocks under your hands. And actually, you might just watch the first time if you're not familiar with this move. So you're going to lift the knees, come to downward dog. From downward dog, lifting way up onto the toes. Bend your knees, and as you bend your knees, that kind of pulls the pelvis around, sort of tucks it under a bit. And here, I'm going to bring one knee up towards the chest. Let the weight come forward, and then swing that lower leg. So you can try that a few times. Maybe the other side. So the knee comes up, you're up on your toes, bend the knee a little. Exhale, when you're empty, it's easier, and then step forward. And know that for many people, you get stuck about here. That's fine. Right? If you get stuck there, you just walk forward. And let's all find our way to that position. So one foot forward, other foot forward. Bring your hands to your shins. Find a little length as you inhale, and then exhale, fold forward. And we'll come all the way up, breathing in. And exhale, releasing the arms down. So as you come upright on your mat, let's take the palms together. And leave a little bit of space between your hands, so you've got a little bit of a cave there. And bring the hands into your heart. And imagine that sun in your heart. A little piece of that sun is also in that little cave or space in your hands. And we'll take a breath in and raise that sun up. And then exhale as if you're spreading light all around you. And of course, the sunlight includes all the colors of the spectrum. So as you open the arms, you can imagine just a golden light or a white light, or you might even imagine a rainbow of light all around you. And we're going to add a forward bend, so we'll take that light all the way to the earth from the heart, spreading light down to the ground, and then gathering light, reaching out and gathering all that lovely light back to the heart. And again, pause when you come back to the center, hands in front of the heart, holding that light. And if there's someone else in your life that you know needs a little bit of light, maybe they're suffering or they're ill or mentally struggling, so bring that person into your mind. If there's no one, you might just have the intention of sending light to whoever needs it. But if there's someone specific, you might do the next time for them, lifting and sending that light out to whoever needs it. And we'll do that 2 more times, offering our empathy, our support, offering light, ease. And next time the arms come down to your sides, you can let them rest there. And we'll go into our sun salutation. So we've done all of the pieces so far. It's just a matter now of putting them together. So you want to be facing the front of your mat and have a little bit of space in front of you so that there's more space behind you for stepping back. And you can use your blocks or not use your blocks as we start out. So it depends if you find them helpful, but you can have them handy if you want to use them later for stepping forward. So from this position, heels go down, little lift in the heart. And let's gather light, drawing the arms to the sides, bring the hands together overhead, and we'll bring that light down and release to the ground. Take your hands to your shins, let your light shine forward from the heart as you come up halfway. Exhale, let the light shine from the back of the heart. Bring your hands down. We'll step back with the right foot, coming to lunge. From lunge, we're going to step back to plank. So before we did plank with the knees down, so we'll bring the knees down, make things a little bit easier on the upper body, and then bend your elbows and let your body roll slowly to the ground. You can slide the hands forward, get the weight off the wrists, press down through the thighs, the hips. Inhale, lift the chest and head. Exhale, lower down. Slide your hands back. Come up as you breathe in. Exhale, move to all fours, and then ultimately downward dog. So if you want the blocks under your hands to step forward, you might kneel back down and take your blocks under your hands. If you're ready to step forward, you're going to lift up onto your toes, bend your knees a little, take a breath. As you exhale, bring the knee up and step forward. You can come to your fingertips if you need to help make that happen, or of course blocks. From here, we'll step the other foot forward. Take the hands to the shins and lengthen. And then exhale, fold forward. Coming all the way up, gathering that light. Bring the palms together. Exhale through the heart and down to the sides. So we'll do that one more time, this time stepping back and forward with the left foot. So taking a breath in, gathering all of that light. Palms come together as if we're concentrating that light, and then bowing forward, offering to the earth. Hands to shins, lengthen. Could be knees. Exhale, fold forward. Hands to the ground or the block. Step back with your left foot to come to lunge. And then from lunge, we'll step back to plank. From plank, knees down, roll to the ground. Slide the hands forward, press down into the hips and thighs. Next, inhale, lift your chest and head. Cobra. Exhale, fold forward, or release forward. It's not much of a fold. Hands come back. You're going to lift up as you inhale, and then exhale, downward dog. From downward dog, again, if you want your blocks under your hands, you can get them. Come onto your toes, bend your knees a little, look where you're going. Exhale, and step forward. Inhale here, and then exhale to step forward with the other foot. Inhale, hands to shins or knees, lengthening, shoulders back, chest forward. Exhale, release your head. Inhale, gathering light, coming all the way up. Concentrating that light into your hands. Exhale, hands to the heart. Take a breath in here. And exhale to release. And let's take the feet apart a little bit wider, and we'll do Some circles for the hips. One way and the other. Right, and coming back to the center, release the hands down. Keep the knees soft here so they're not locked. And we'll take a breath in, raise one arm up. Exhale, reach down to the opposite side. Come up and switch arms as you inhale. Exhale, sink to the other side. Inhale up and switch. Exhale to the side. Inhale, switch. Exhale. This time when you come up to the center, you can leave the opposite arm down and release the arm that was up. Feet can stay apart or come a little closer. Whatever you like. Take a breath in, coming up. As you exhale, bend your knees a little, come forward. You can either stop with your elbows on your thighs or reach down toward the ground. And then we'll come all the way up. And exhale to come forward. Lifting. Releasing. You can stay here for a few breaths, letting the body dangle if you like, maybe holding the hands into the opposite elbow creases, or could be elbows or forearms on your thighs. When you're ready to come up, releasing all the way up, bringing the palms together as if you're gathering that light, concentrating it, bringing it back to the heart. Take a breath here and release. You can step the feet right underneath the hips in Tadasana or mountain pose. Let the heels sink down. Feel that lift in the heart and dropping down through the shoulders. Pause here for a moment. If you're comfortable, you can close your eyes even. Some people find that they feel unbalanced standing with the eyes closed, so whatever works for you. You're feeling that sense of being grounded, connected to the earth, but also a sense of lifting and opening and being connected to the light and the sun and what is light, what is easeful, what's energized in your life, what feels good. And at the same time, feeling that sense of grounding. So we have this ease and this calmness and this sense of uplifting at the same time in an ideal energetic situation. Often we feel more grounded or more lifted. So finding that balance. Exhale, sink into your heels a little more. Inhale, feel an expansion across the heart a little more. And then let all of that go. Just breathe normally. So we are going to make our way back to the ground now. So you can come onto your mat, making your way to the ground. And you can come right to lie down. And when you come to lie down, coming onto your back, you might hug your knees into your chest and do a little rocking or circling movement. Really, whatever would feel good. We're heading into our last pose for the class, which is our relaxation pose, also called Shavasana. So if there's any other movement that your body is interested in doing now, is a good time to do that. And taking your time, eventually letting the body settle. We'll spend just a few minutes with the relaxation today. But as always, if you want to carry on for a longer moment or longer time of relaxation, then when we get to the end, you can just ignore me and continue to relax until you're ready to get on with your day. So as you come to stillness, making sure you're warm enough, finding that nice, comfortable position and letting your body sink into the support of the ground. Let the weight of your head release into the earth and let all the muscles of your face soften. Feel your jaw release. The muscles of your neck let go. Shoulders and arms releasing. Let your hands be soft. Feel your torso become a little heavier as you exhale and the rib cage softens and sinks down, the belly relaxes and the lower back releases. Feel the weight of your pelvis softening around the hips, the lower belly, feeling the thighs release. Softening down into your knees, feel your kneecaps drop, your calves and ankles soften. And let your feet relax. Letting go as much as possible of the need to do or be anything, and allowing your body to simply rest. Integrating the benefits of the practice in this rest period. I'll share with you part of a chant called Surya Namaskara Mantra, which means saluting or honoring the sun. And each line starts with one of the colors of the rainbow and then a little description of the qualities of the sun. So I'm just going to do part of the chant for you, one round. So as you listen, you might imagine that sun in your heart or a sun shining down on you, as if you could fill yourself up with sunshine and carry that through the darker days. Om Hram Uddanadya Mitra Maha Om Hrim Arohanuttarandivam Om Hrum Hrudrugam Mama Surya. Om Hraim Harimananjanashaya. Om Hraum Shuke Shume Harimanam. Om Hraha Ropanaka Sudadmasi. So again, if you want to continue with Shavasana and rest a little longer, you can just ignore my instructions. And if you're ready to move on with your day, you can let the breath deepen a little bit. Invite a little more energy into your body with your breath. Gradually add a bit of movement. Maybe wiggle your fingers and toes to begin with. Circle your ankles and wrists. Starting at the periphery and gradually moving more, stretching out in any way that would feel good. Eventually you can roll onto one side and make your way slowly back to sitting as you're ready. And then again, bringing the palms together, holding that sun near the heart, and having the intention of carrying the sun's energy with you, the brightness, the energy, aliveness. Share that feeling with those that you connect with. Share that light and warmth from your heart as you go through your day. Namaste. Have a great day.